In the workshop, making some space on the workbench after the large 7 1/4 inch gauge Sweet William was collected. The space is filled by the next project. I am rebuilding a Blackgate's Sweet Pea locomotive. Because the Sweet William was so heavy, I reinforced the bench using a thick piece of plywood on top of the already thick piece of plywood which forms the bench top. The first items to go back to their normal resting place are the 2 rolling road units, just leaving the marks where they've been. Whenever I do jobs, I always end up with a box of old bits. I tend to replace the fastenings where possible. And these various collections of old bits and parts usually end up in a box. There was a time when I would put them on eBay. But I don't do that much now because the post office is miles away. Time to move the board. And at last I have an almost level bench. The weight of the Sweet William on this panel of the bench has depressed it a bit. It's lower than the other one, but it should come back after a while. If you follow my YouTube channel, you'll have seen the parts from the Sweet Pea that I've already started work on. And now here they are sat on the workbench in the main workshop. There is a limit to what I can do and want to do in my small workshop built onto the house. There are many more facilities in this workshop than the other one. Here are the 2 Sweet Pea cylinders, both of which need some attention. The milling standard on the port faces really is a bit of a joke. I need to put this right. Plan A is to use some JB weld to straighten them up. And if this doesn't work, I shall fit a piece of gauge plate over each of the cylinders, which I will pre-mill. I could bolt them together and mill them as a pair, so I would end up with 3 ports that are perfectly accurate and well machined. The gauge plate is usually about 1/8 of an inch thick, so I would reface the cylinders and remove about 1/8 of an inch of metal. This is a good and permanent fix. I've done it before. But I may try the JB weld method first. Here's a chassis, and I can't say I particularly enjoyed carrying it from the workshop through the house, out into the garden, and into this workshop where you see it now. If you take a close look at this image, you will see there is only one motion bracket. But all is not lost. I bought a casting to make 2 more. I can copy the dimensions from the one that's already fitted. But not yet. What I'm going to do is dismantle this chassis and see whether it's a practical proposition to have it powder coated. There's a powder coating place just on the edge of the village. I think I'll move the oil cans to a safe place where they can't poke my eye out. The larger one of the 2 oil cans contains steam oil and the smaller one is full of lubricating oil. Back down to the house now to pick up the boiler. I thought the job through and made some space so I had somewhere to put the boiler when I got it. Here is the boiler and the tank and the cab. These are all of the parts that I have for this Sweet Pea. The tank is quite well made, but I think it needs some more screws in the top. The cab isn't well made. I'm going to modify this extensively. The sides are made from very thin sheet steel, and this needs some reinforcement. And yes, of course, I forgot to mention the boiler leaks. What I will be doing very shortly is performing a hydraulic test on this boiler to see where the leaks are coming from. I wouldn't want to take on a conventional locomotive boiler, but this is a simple marine boiler and I've fixed one before, which was successful. Time will tell whether I can get this boiler through a boiler test. There are 2 sets of numbers. There's this one on top of the regulator block, but I think the official number is at the bottom, 921112. I'm going to check with Blackgate's Engineering to see whether it actually came from them in the first place. Even though there's a leak apparently on the tube plate, this boiler does appear to be very well made. If I can fix it, then that's good. If not, I will have to source another one. With some space on the bench, I can now get around to some jobs that are well overdue. This is a Stewart 504 boiler, and I'm putting this together for my friend Andrew. It has a meths burner, and it's not going to be mounted on a board. There are pros and cons for mounting boilers on boards. The worst thing about it is, where do you put the boiler and the board when you're not using it? The boiler needs a blanking plug and I've just fitted one using some Loctite 542 sealant. The option is always available to remove it to fit a water pump. Andrew briefly was talking about making a Stewart water pump, but I talked him out of it. He's struggling making a number 7A, and making a steam-powered water pump is far more difficult than this. I will be showing the reassembly and testing of this boiler in a short series. Here I'm having a look at the water gauge. Another project to finish now that I have the space. It's this one. It's quite a large steam plant is this, to say the least, and I modified it comprehensively from what you see here. These clips are taken from my series Making a Stewart Model Steam Plant. And because it's going to be a Stewart Model Steam Plant, I removed the PM Research boiler. This video was made early on in the series when I was planning the layout. This is a Stewart 501 boiler and it's ideal for the scale of the plant. When building models, scale is extremely important. Here you get the general idea. An S50, a 10V, a 501 boiler and then the existing fittings that came with the plant. The original two fittings are slightly overscaled but they look quite good. Here's a plant a bit later on with the condenser oil trap economizer, also known as a water preheater. Because the boiler feed water from the hand pump goes into a coil that runs inside the condenser and obviously the exhaust steam warms up this coil, which in turn warms up the water, and this obviously improves the steaming quality. This clip is from an earlier episode before I piped the plant. The only thing left to do to finish this job is to make a leather drive belt for the dynamo and wire the lights. Here is a steam test. That is it for this episode. Stay safe, stay healthy, thanks for watching, and I hope you found it useful. Please take the time to visit my Main Steam Models website and click on the section of the website that says Video Playlists. And by doing that, you can find other videos that you may like to watch. And by using the playlists, you can actually watch the videos back to back.